And now it's time for Fabulous Film and Friends. This week on Fabulous Film and Friends, I'm both chasing butterflies and swatting at hornets whilst forcing my friends to watch and analyze the films of director S.Craig Zahler, a filmmaker who couldn't have a more awkward professional name than if he'd gone with E. Marvin Bummington. But are his films worth discussing? We're talking 2015's Bone Tomahawk, starring the mighty Kurt Russell, Patrick Wilson, Richard Jenkins, Matthew Fox, David Arquette, Lili Simmons, Fred Melamed, Kathryn Morris, Geno Segers, and a pair of blink and you'll miss them cameos from Young and Michael Paré.
Hey, wait. Sid Haig.
And yes, Sid Haig. Yes,
Sid Haig at the beginning, yes.
Then 2017's Brawl in Cell Block 99, starring Vince Vaughn, Jennifer Carpenter, Udo Kier, Marc Blucas, Geno Segers again, Dion Mucciato, and Don Johnson. And finally, Dragged Across Concrete, which came out in 2019 and stars Mel Gibson, Tory Kettles, Michael Jai White, Thomas Kretschmann, and the S.Craig Zahler traveling players, including Vince Vaughn again, Jennifer Carpenter, Fred Melamed, Udo Kier, and Don Johnson. My guests today are my go-to series regulars, who are the only pair I know who have the slightest interest in joining me in this flight of fancy, Roseanne Caputi and Alex Robertson. Alex, warm us up with a bit about Mr. Zahler's Miami agent coming up with a better screen name than S. Craig. I vote for Zeke Zahler. What do you got?
Here's what we got. Column A, I've got Alfred E. Newman. Column B, I've got Honey Ledbetter. And column C, I've got Kirk Douglas.
Okay, before we wander outside of town into the deadly trail... let's say that again. Before we wander outside of town onto the deadly trail, the synopses. In Bone Tomahawk, a murderous outlaw unwittingly leads a band of cannibalistic savages into a peaceful western town where the brutes kidnap the jailed outlaw, a deputy, and the town's doctor, who is also the wife of Arthur O'Dwyer, a local rancher. Despite an injured leg, Arthur joins a rescue party with Sheriff Franklin Hunt's old deputy Chicory, and a mysterious dandy cum gunslinger named John Bruder. With Arthur's injury slowing them down, the four brave men follow the savages' path to a hellish territory where they come face to face with unimaginable horrors that test both the team's courage and sanity. Brawl in Cell Block 99 tells the tale of Bradley Thomas, who in one day is fired from his job as a mechanic and learns his wife is having an affair. He decides the only way to salvage his marriage is to go full-time back into drug smuggling to make real money. A year later, all is well. Bradley has a big house and his wife is pregnant, but he does a shady deal with a sleazy cartel, and it all goes south. Sleazy cartel. I don't know why I wrote that. With a good, well-intentioned cartel, and it all goes south. Forcing Bradley to choose between killing cops and killing cartel members. He chooses the latter, but still ends up with a 5-year prison sentence in a minimum security prison. Seems it is what it is until a messenger from the cartel comes to visit Bradley on his second day in incarceration and tells him that if he doesn't get transferred to the maximum security prison in order to kill a high-value target in Subblock 99, that his wife and unborn child will be murdered. Bradley dutifully and mercilessly follows their orders to save his family until he realizes all may not be what it seems. In Dragged Across Concrete, unorthodox and vaguely shady take-no-prisoners cops Brett Ridgman and Anthony Lurisetti are suspended for use of excessive force and use their unpaid leave to plan a heist. Unfortunately, their plot leads to witnessing a deadly bank robbery committed by a vicious and amoral trio of crooks led by Lawrence Vogelman, who hired street thugs Henry Johns and Biscuit to be part of their team. With a dire hostage situation on their hands and after witnessing several murders, Henry and Biscuit begin to suspect that their hours are numbered as part of Vogelman's crew. At the same time, Ridgman and Lurisetti are the only ones who have tailed the gang to their getaway hideout under the only pair who can make a difference. The two forces meet up in the proverbial abandoned warehouse, and chaos ensues. Okay, I'm going to go first and rate them because it was my idea to get you into this mess, everybody. So I just have to tell a bit of a gonna go everybody's favorite way, the long-winded way, and I'm gonna tell give you a tale of what happened. So the three of us, have been discussing Kurt Russell, and with Kurt Russell high on my consciousness, I saw Bone Tomahawk. I've always been seeing Bone Tomahawk lurking on streaming, and I've been like, I'm going to avoid that because it came out exactly the same time as Hateful Eight with Kurt Russell, Quentin Tarantino's Western, which I despise with everything in my soul and everything in my being. I just despise that movie. So I'd heard on the nerd channels that Bone Tomahawk was gruesome and brutal and hardcore, and I was just not in the mood for it, especially after Hateful Eight. So anyway, with all that Kurt Russell talk in my head, I give it a look, and I thought it was great. I thought it was really great. So that rating, I'd say a solid B+, almost A-. I mean, it almost straddles into the A territory. My only reservations were, again, the extreme and shocking violence. But I thought it was a really good adventure. So then I see Brawl in Cell Block 99, and I think, well, it was a B movie for sure, but it was an interestingly shot and interestingly directed B movie. So I thought, this guy's got something. So I give it I'm saying B-, C+, and maybe even a C, C+, C great rating, just based on the sort of corny story. And then we call this conference. I call you guys. I say, hey, let's do this podcast about this S.Craig Zahler. He seems like he's got it going on. And then, but I hadn't watched Dragged Across Concrete, which I say is D- F. It's a dud. So I'm like, I don't know, this guy. So here we are. That's my ratings. That's my story. Alex, what do you got?
What do you want me to give
rate
you a
them,
rating?
Rate them. How do you rate them? And how do you
rate them? I give Bone Tomahawk a stellar 8. I'm using numbers,
okay.
Geno Caputi.
Sure.
I'll give Brawl in Cell Block 99 6.5. And Dragged Across Concrete, I'm not going to be as cruel, but I'm going to give it a 5.
5.
I mean, it's clearly the weakest of the three. I will agree with that.
5 is an F. 5 is an F.
Not in the Robertson book of grading.
5 out of 10 is an F.
No. That's for your white patriarchy. No, my son. I come from a different. It's a sliding scale for me. Anyway, I don't care. Okay, F whatever. I'll still watch an F movie if it entertains me. And as we'll discuss later today. Okay,
yeah,
are we talking, geez, I don't know, Paul W.S. Anderson crap? Or are we talking, somebody who's worth it,
worse?
who
in a way
happens...
worse.
I don't know about that. I guess.
I
guess.
Let's continue on.
Anyway.
So, all right, Roseanne, how do you rate them? A's or numbers? The numbers.
I now like the idea of us having 3 entirely different scales. So,
fine, go for it. So stars. How many stars?
Yeah, I was going to say out of 4 unicorns. I
Who's that
give.
irritating one with the hats? Who's the one with the hats?
Is it what?
There's a woman with hats. I forgot who it was. She used to rate the movies
a reviewer
with hats. Big, fat,
really?
obnoxious woman. She and Tarantino got into a fight one time.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
well, it's certainly not Pauline Kael.
I have no idea.
Okay,
yeah, deep respect for Pauline Kael. So, okay, that's interesting.
Again, I also had always been sort of curious about Bone Tomahawk, so that's why I jumped on this. This trolley to hell, because I thought I've wanted to see this, and I was really glad I saw it because I thought everyone was great in it. So I do think, honestly, that gets 3.5 unicorns. Assault on Brawl, whatever the fuck. Again, I keep his name and the name of that movie. I just can't get. Anyway, Cell Block 99. I was also excited to see because I thought Vince Vaughn was awesome, and I like Vince Vaughn anyway. So I think that gets a solid 2.5 unicorns, just because, right, corny, but just to, I will say that the cracks are starting to show. And I had this feeling that I was like, okay, Dragged Across Concrete, I feel like will be worse than this. And this is already showing me some ways that this guy is going wrong in terms of filmmaking, like straying away from the strength of his Western. So I guess 2 unicorns, honestly. And I think Dragged Across Concrete was one of those movies that made me sad that movies existed. So that gets 0 unicorns.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, let's talk about this guy. All he had to do was Steve Zahler or Craig Zahler. Who the hell? What kind
Craig
of pretentious?
Zahler.
Let's just call him Craig.
Craig
okay?
Zahler. What kind of
Craig Z.
What
Craig
kind
Z.
of jerk puts an S before his name?
Right.
Who knows?
Anyway, so I'm reminded of M. Night Shyamalan, another one with a constant with a contraction. What is it? What is it when you put a letter in front of consonant in front of his name? M. Night Shyamalan, which for whatever reason works. But
so does F. Scott Fitzgerald,
yeah,
but
those flow off the tongue.
Or S. Craig Zahler is neither of those men. Anyway.
Well, okay, but I'd say he's following the similar trajectory of one really tight, good movie, the second one showing some cracks, and then balls out crap for the rest of his career. Now, we don't know what he's going to do.
We don't know.
But that's M. Night Shyamalan. Again, you got Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and then freaking Signs, where it all just went to hell. And I think I see a similar pattern. So I don't know. It's an interesting, and the guy is 50 years old, so how many movies does he have in him? Who knows, but it's obvious, like, well, Bone Tomahawk was good enough to where I thought the guy had some, like, he's Tim Lincecum, right? He had some stuff, he had some juice,
right?
His arm went sour.
I wish you hadn't said that. Tim Lincecum always bums me out. Just what a trajectory. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. I don't think it's any different than
Young awards in a row. Damn it.
Yeah.
No different than a Sandy Koufax. You come on and you blaze for about 5 or 6 years and then you leave.
Well, yeah, but M. Night Shyamalan at least had two films. Obviously, Brawl and Cell Block 99 didn't set the world on fire. I don't think Bone Tomahawk did. I don't even think it was a box office hit. It just became sort of a cult hit.
It wasn't, but people...
No, I don't think any of his movies, they just
have
a following.
Bone Tomahawk. It has all these great performers and giving great performances.
Give him credit. It's well directed.
It is, but it absolutely is. And again, one would think, like, from that, he would create even more with this sort of, like, grim, and I would say it makes no sense. He had this great, really realistic way of, even when their horses get stolen and they're walking and all these things, I was like, this is still good stuff. Patrick Wilson's wound all seemed pretty realistic and, slowing them down in a realistic way, and all their responses seemed, pretty right. And then just the baffling drop off to Dragged Across Concrete, where nobody seems like where it seems like everyone is based on an animatronic he once knew. Like, it makes no sense to me how that occurred, except cocaine and cults. I'm not joking. I'm just like, what the hell? Richard Jenkins is so great. And and we talked about this. Richard Jenkins is not always great. So that means the director had a part in his performance. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Patrick Wilson too. He's solid, but he does a lot of crap. I don't know. He seemed to sort of rise above his station as a B movie Aquaman sidekick kind of performance, where it's like that Patrick Wilson was in a performance I really wanted to see him in, like, because he
seemed like the noble American.
Yeah.
I always thought Patrick Wilson should be playing because he's handsome and a really actually good actor.
Yeah, exactly. And he's, for whatever reason, he's one of those actors that just kind of sad career choices or something, where it's like, why didn't he become a major star? And it's his movie, really. It's his story. I mean, Kurt Russell and all the others are actually, I'd say, supporting players.
I think they are, but I will say, and I said this before, but I'm just like, this is the one where I was like, okay, Kurt Russell is Hall of Fame. I don't care. I don't care if it's just his persona or we like Kurt Russell or whatever. I'm just like, to me, he is one of the probably greater or best, American actors working.
Well, he did sell that horrible scene.
He sure did. And anyone, plenty of people would have spazzed or whatever, and he was awesome.
Yeah, he did not go the Nicolas Cage route. He brought it home.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's a fact.
Comments,
the
Alex?
only, yeah, sorry.
What?
You concur? What? You like the movie more than we did. What do you say? What do you got?
Well, maybe one of the problems with Craig is he seems to have a lot of irons in the fire, not just movies, but when you look at his resume, he's an author, he's an illustrator, he's a musician. I don't know, he's written, gosh, I don't know how many screenplays that the guy's written, but he sounds like he just, he doesn't let anything get him down. I mean, it sounds like, I could sit here and I can ponder and I can think, or I can just start writing, even if it's stream of conscious, whatever that thing is. And maybe, and maybe that's why, Dragged Across Concrete has that feel. I don't know. But one thing I noticed...
Dragged Across Concrete gives a strong case for thinking before one writes, though.
Maybe that's what he did. Maybe he didn't trust his instincts. But it also kind of played to me like a graphic novel, which is something that he does as well. Was he trying to... Because I know when he made Bone Tomahawk, he had watched, apparently, according to his own story, like a dozen or so Westerns. Anywhere from good to really bad. And like, okay, I'm going to do a Western. Now with Brawl, I don't know. Did he watch a lot of the old... I think he did watch, like, Riot and Cell Block, There's an old movie, I think, from the 50s called Riot in Cell Block 99 or whatever.
Yeah.
So he was probably watching all those, like Brute Force with Burt Lancaster. And, and like kind of getting a feeling like, okay, what can I do? Now with Dragged Across Concrete, I don't know. Corrupt cop dramas. But in terms of focus, I will agree. It doesn't have the focus, certainly doesn't have the focus of Bone Tomahawk. And Brawl still has something at its center.
Yeah. Vince Vaughn.
It doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up, but there's still something. And, maybe because it is a great performance from Vince Vaughn. Now, I've never been a huge fan. I've never really disliked him. But, boy, a bad Vince Vaughn performance really stands out.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about The Lost World,
Jurassic
Lost
Park. World.
Oh, Lost World. I was thinking Four Christmases.
No, I didn't. I didn't like Swingers, and I didn't
Dinker.
like. I didn't like.
I never saw
when
those.
he first entered the scene. I didn't like Swingers, and I didn't like, of course, The Lost World because it was horrible, and he was terrible in it because. As was everybody.
Don't even remember. I don't remember.
But
I don't
the
remember.
fact is he, in my mind, only started digging himself out of the hole when he did Made. He did Made, and which I liked a lot, and he was really funny in it. And then, of course, Dodgeball. Dodgeball is one of those classic Vince Vaughn performances, which sort of like, okay, he does what he does well. But
but this was a different Vince Vaughn performance.
Yeah, and it was
and what I loved
his face and his eyes, which I liked.
Well, and also his physicality. That part when he the part when he rips the car apart is awesome.
It is a great scene. It's so unorthodox. It's so unorthodox. I mean, we were talking about the fights earlier, but I love how the fights are choreographed because they're not your typical, Matrix style, fast moving, athletic. No. They're brutal.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, when the way he takes that boxing stance, that's like a classic boxing stance. And this is a guy, as I mentioned, it's like George Foreman. When George Foreman made his comeback and realized he has so much strength that he doesn't have to throw haymakers. He can just stand there, do a jab, and he knocks a guy into next week.
Yeah.
And
so that's the disappointing thing about Craigie Z is that it seemed like he was making these sort of, kind of retro, but not, like westerns, prison movies. Like those are genres, those are movies I like to watch, you know. I love westerns, you know, and
I love prison movies.
and I love prison movies. No, but look, I like to see a dude beat ass. I like The Longest Yard. I'm not what do you, I'm only as God made me, you know, whatever. But that's what was so disappointing about Dragged Across Concrete, is that it took this sort of promise of like an interesting guy who's doing sort of genre movies in a very sort of American way to just this like, is this what's at the core of this? All this sort of like torture porn, weird neoconservative nonsense? And I would hope that that wasn't the case. And that's the case that Dragged Across Concrete made it, in terms of the trilogy.
Yeah, it's a weird title because it drags the other two films across concrete too.
It makes those other two it cheapens the first two viewing experiences. It all, you know, we could rip on it, but it's not. The reason it's even close to worth ripping on is because Bone Tomahawk has this great pacing and plenty of suspense, and you don't see any of the natives. You don't see any of it. You hear their scary whistle and the whole thing. And I thought that really worked. And I just thought it was, you know, really well done. And the idea, the great Western idea of even when you're walking 10 miles a day, you're still going to unfortunately get to your destination, which is, you know, ultimately your doom. Yeah. And I thought that was so well done. And again, he does this in each movie, which I think is so cool. He doesn't use very much music.
Yeah. And he shoots wide angles.
Yeah. So again, these both seem like really cool choices.
Well, even the best things of Dragged Across Concrete were the wide angles. And the you never see a hold up with an evil masked gunman in a wide angle, and he shot the convenience store with this horrifying wide angle, and just
that was really disturbing in an interesting way. Yeah,
and even when they're in that abandoned warehouse or whatever, you know, steel mill or whatever it was, the wide angles did work to its favor, you know.
Right. That's the question. Alex, do you not feel that Dragged Across Concrete is bad enough to dismiss him?
I don't think it is.
Okay. Can you tell me why?
I don't, because I still think there are some redeeming qualities. Because it is let's just say we all agree that it's a bad movie. Because I don't want you guys beating me up.
No, I'm ready to listen. Alex.
No.
Wait a minute, Alex. In your defense, it's got 72% on Rotten Tomatoes. So 72%. I mean, almost a C plus in terms of critics.
Maybe, but Rotten Tomatoes has become not the benchmark for me. I mean, in the last few years, you're sort of like, okay, are we talking about critics or are we talking about the average viewer? I mean, you get those movies where
viewers probably higher.
I thought it was average viewer.
Okay, and it probably is. You know, well, I think because you've got those people that probably do believe in him. I don't know if I'm one of those, but I'm probably closer to that. You know, somebody that's willing to give the kid a chance. But let's just say, as bad as the movie is, I still think it has a style. Maybe it is a little leaden compared to the first two movies, but the wide angles I think are very interesting. It does, the guy does have an eye.
Yeah, well, this movie was in that talk with John Johnson.
And
those were three actors throwing gutter balls from every side. Well,
I don't have a sensitive ear like you because I am the guy that still believes in pixies and unicorns.
Yes, and disemboweling and popping livers.
Popping livers and heads getting crushed. Yeah. I want the viscera. I want the immediate. I want satisfaction.
Right. So let's just admit you want to see a guy get the shit kicked out of him in a satisfying way, which I do. I do too. I'm in. Again, I liked Cell Block 99. I just felt like that's why I feel irritated by this movie. I felt like I was cheated and I didn't get that satisfaction in this film.
But he gave it to
Did you not notice a lot of $10 words in the script, Alex? So he did it. he did it to very plausible. And I even said, to Roseanne, it's almost
I'll
like
have to go back and watch.
It's like a Coen Brothers movie. I was like, Bone Tomahawk was like really so well written and such good dialogue.
Yeah.
And then in this movie, it's just so pretentious. I hate to bring up a certain friend of ours, but it felt like he had a hand in the screenplay.
Okay. No, I get it.
He's just constantly... So you're going to assuage your guilt or something like... Who uses assuage? Give me a break.
See, I didn't even catch that.
Oh, there were tons of like $10 words.
Now, what I liked about Bone Tomahawk, and he does the same thing in one of his early novels, The Wraiths of the Broken Land, which is, I guess, what he wanted to film as his first movie, but they figured the budget would be too much. It's like a Western revenge, but they do speak in that heightened sort of... I'll say it. I think he read a lot of Cormac McCarthy.
Did you read the book?
Yeah, I haven't finished it. But, they have a way of speaking, kind of in the same way, in what was the Andrew Dominic movie?
Assassination of Jesse James?
Yes.
Assassination of Jesse James.
That was really good dialogue.
Yeah. It was. No, I'm saying it was good dialogue.
Yeah, and so Bone Tomahawk was in there for sure.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And it reminds me, and a lot of it does, the violence especially. It was like, this is Blood Meridian territory.
Yeah.
It
goes beyond it though. It felt like a sci-fi movie or a horror movie at that point. It
could
seemed
have
like
gone.
It was.
I don't know.
Bad,
I think it could have gone
never
further.
felt like okay. I told Roseanne it felt reminded me of The Road, but I was that's the wrong sensation. It felt a little like jarringly out of its genre. It sort of threw me into a new genre, like I'm watching a torture porn movie. So
he does have that quality, because I will say Cormac McCarthy, even when they're talking about slamming baby skulls and these kinds of things, and which an image I'll think about forever from Blood Meridian. I just think the violence of that is about how much those people don't care, how it's just sort of part of the landscape of what they were doing at the time.
Well, and that's exactly what I see. It's just the as Cormac McCarthy said. I mean, you cannot have growth or whatever, regeneration without violence. I mean, I think it was an extreme outlook on life, but
certainly,
this country was not founded on good deeds, and and when you're talking about expanding territory and you're frontier
so I have
territory,
to say that I can't
what is the law
imagine
of the land? I guess
though, and again, like I said, Bone Tomahawk is 3.5 unicorns, but the idea of blinding those pregnant ladies and them not having legs and arms, and then having it shot in a way where everyone's looking at it, and that's the parting scene. I just thought, why is this happening? Like, I have to say,
that's where but that gave me that sensation of The Road. Hold on.
I don't know.
But
doesn't that tie
like
back in?
So it was a throwaway. It was a disturbing, creepy throwaway. Maybe a little over the top for sure. But it felt like I don't know why you're mad at that. That's the least. I mean, to me, the scalping and the cutting of the guy in half is about as horrifying as it gets.
That was horrifying, but to me, I just thought, okay, we were leading to this point. So again, that culminated in that point, and and I felt like that was Cell Block 99 too. I'm just like, okay, he full on just rubbed a dude's face off. All right.
Yeah.
And it was very far, but I just thought, okay, we're culminating in this point with these guys. I did not feel that same we were headed towards this anyway when they cut open that poor Michael J. whatever.
Yeah.
And White, right.
Yeah.
And are looking through his entrails. So when I saw that, and then plus the pregnant women, I just thought, now I'm not sure where the storyteller is coming from.
Well, I think he's coming from a very immature place. That's me, but it goes even beyond immaturity. So, Tarantino, we always talk about his immaturity. This goes into Psycho.
Yeah.
Like this guy, I'm starting to think he's a little weird, especially the exploding heads in Subblock. So Subblock 99, I'm like, why the exploding heads? Why is he getting into this whole thing? Like everybody's, like even Vince Vaughn's head explodes. You know?
Right. The head explodes, him knocking that guy's head. Okay.
Yeah, he's really into, and even in Bone Tomahawk, there's some exploding heads.
Yeah.
So it's like he's really into the exploding head gag, which I find a little odd. Like it's kind of creepy. You know, it's
But
not just because
like,
well, to me it undermines his wide angles, because the wide angles give it a realism, and this is way too much, way too much.
That's what I'm saying. A lot of his choices undermine the good things about his films, which is too bad. And then watching the films in succession.
I'll let you talk. Let me talk. Just real quick. You watch a YouTube video. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos where people die, because that's what we're faced with these days. And people, when you see people get shot, you don't see explosions. You usually just see them bend over and fall down. You know, in from a distance. So if you're shooting from that wide angle, that's what we should see first. Is just the people recoiling and falling, not the, because that's not what we typically see. You know. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I lost it. I don't know. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry. All right, Alex.
Sorry.
What point were you going to make? Which I interrupted you.
I forgot.
Oh.
I forgot. Oh.
As long as you said
I think.
Sorry, I just wasn't
going
finished.
back to the brutality of the of the troglodytes. As brutal as the scalping and splitting scene was, I think I was kind of prepared for it. I hate to say it, but back to when Zahn McClarnahan, I think that I'm saying his name right, the Native American actor, when he comes in and he basically is saying they're nothing like us. I mean, they even frighten us, basically. These guys, they're off the maps.
He does say it. He said they'll rape and eat their own mothers.
Right.
Yeah.
So with that foreshadowing, why are you so upset, Roseanne, by the fact that they use their women just as breeding thing? I mean, it's extreme, and it seems like this guy thought of that.
I hate that you're saying upset like I'm just being a wiener, but I just didn't see, for some reason with that, I just didn't see the sense of it. I'm just like blinded and armless and legless.
Yeah, so they can be breeders for them.
I guess.
Breeders.
They're animals. They're crazy animals. I mean, it's...
Well, yeah. No, they are.
And what tribe are they based on, right? Zero, right? There's no tribe who did this.
No. I was going to say, this is just a dream wacko tribe.
That's the thing. It's a little science fiction-ish. Like, okay. He might as well have said they're from another planet. You should have We should have seen the hieroglyphics or the paintings, the wall art that shows the spaceship.
Well, the skulls. You saw the skull.
Yeah.
Hey, look at those skulls.
Do you think that's what I mean. That's where
that
I was.
Harbinger's anything?
I'm not sure. See, if you're doing a movie of Blood Meridian, which I they always say it's unfilmable. I used to go, what are they talking about? Then I read most of the book. Most of it, I might add. I gave up. How much blood can you take? Now I get it, but at least that has a point to it, and there's a certain logic to it. This just didn't seem logical to me. That's my only issue with it. It just, especially as we talk about it, it just feels illogical.
Even if he's going down Cormac McCarthy territory, it doesn't mean he's grasping the spirit of Cormac McCarthy.
Well, right. In no way.
He's drawn to the viscera.
Yeah.
But no, Cormac McCarthy had a point to his violence. Yes, his worlds are violent.
But Cormac McCarthy's worlds are violent because, again, this is either how the world was created or how the world is falling apart. How nations are built. Yeah, they're not. They're not built on good intentions. The judge is the ultimate of that, right? Coming essentially from the earth with this sort of primordial violence. Well, yes. Over the West.
I know you don't like the guy, but Harold Bloom said that the judge is war. He's perpetual war.
You got it.
Again. And I maybe that's what Zahler was trying to go for in this. Maybe the troglodytes, did they represent that feral side, that primal side that we're all trying to, because these are people that are trying to be more civilized. You know, trying to be civilized. You know, and then you've got somebody like at the beginning of the movie, you've got sort of the in-betweeners, Sid Haig and David Arquette. I mean, the very first scene we see is a guy getting his throat slashed.
Yeah.
You know,
and
but
again,
then
both
the tables are
great. And they seem like ultimate sort of like Jack Elam Western type characters.
Yes,
they
were.
David Arquette was a great choice.
Yeah,
he
really
was. I'm not usually a big fan of his, but it was like, no, he was a nasty little bugger. He was.
And his scene with Kurt Russell was so good. It really established Kurt Russell as the boss. And it was a very good scene. You know, I was really impressed with that movie. I really was impressed with just all that he was doing right. That's why Driving Across Concrete is such a letdown. Let's get into the performances. So Kurt Russell. Okay, Roseanne, how many unicorns does Kurt Russell get?
On a scale from 1 to 4 unicorns, Kurt Russell gets 10. He's awesome.
Yeah.
I loved this performance. And again, he's played a sheriff a million times, whatever, who gives a shit, except for some reason there was more gravitas, more beard, just
better than ever.
Better than ever.
He's gotten to that point that he can play that role with such ease, you know? And it wasn't a phoning it in performance. I believe that guy.
I honestly think he got robbed of a Best Actor nomination.
No, I think that has
surprise.
He uses economy the way I don't think a lot of actors do, and it comes across as strength. And I just thought, what a great performance.
But see, he's in that school, and I know we can talk about Best Actors. Are we talking about the actors that can transform themselves with each role, like a Daniel Day-Lewis, or do we also talk about those guys, those men and women that maybe they're always the same person, but they just have an ease about them, you know? But just that great follow-up in that horrific scene when Richard Jenkins was like, "Is that true? Are they?" No. I just wanted to give him some, you know. And it's tragic, it's heartbreaking, but it's just so wonderfully done. And Kurt Russell sells it, as does Richard Jenkins.
Yeah, they're great.
Richard Jenkins even sells the flea circus monologue.
Everything he did in that movie, he sold. Yeah. He was so darn good. Yeah. And again, effortless. I mean, that's one of those kind of performances, you know, with a lesser actor, a little hammy. You know, there's a lot of potential for that role to be hammy, like
even from Richard Jenkins. So that's what was so refreshing about that. Yeah, you know,
I usually like Richard Jenkins, but I mean, this was a very different role for him.
Oh, he's not always spot on. I remember realizing that Richard Jenkins could sometimes be bad.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like they all can. I mean,
sure, but this was a great performance by him, and I think he and Kurt Russell, and honestly, Matthew Fox. Yeah. All 4 of those guys.
Hold on, I'm not going down round. I haven't gone through the cast list. So Patrick Wilson, I like this new rating system. So Roseanne, Patrick Wilson,
unicorns.
Patrick Wilson's 4 unicorns. He's great. Again, Patrick Wilson is an actor. Maybe Alex, I feel the way about Patrick Wilson that you've felt about Zac Efron. Like for years, I was like, when are people going to be into Patrick Wilson? Like I think about him in Little Children, and he's so good and such a fucking idiot.
Hey, I thought about that in Watchmen. Watchmen, I liked him in
that. Sure, he's the best part about Watchmen, I think.
Yeah.
Watchmen. He's in Phantom of the Opera. Like he sings, he dances, he does.
Well, he was a Broadway guy. Yeah.
So I just think
you wouldn't know it.
It's crazy. He's got this likable sort of everyday American face, every man, and he never ever gets to, like, he should have played Aquaman legitimately, but he's always really good. I think
he'll get his break. I think he'll.
You know,
let's hope.
All right, what kind of rating you give him, Alex? Out of 10 out of 10, you're doing your stars, right?
Yeah, what's your rating system?
Your number rating system.
Who are you starting with? Patrick Wilson. 9.5.
Ooh.
Kurt Russell, 10.
All right.
10, and I'd go off the scale if I could, but my scale is very delicate.
Richard Jenkins, Roseanne. We can't elaborate too much. We're running out of time. Richard Jenkins.
Again, Richard Jenkins, I'm giving 4 unicorns. I think I loved this performance. I loved he honestly gave one of those performances where it really did seem like he was listening to all the other actors and genuinely responding. Like, again, that scene where he's like, well, I don't think I could kill a woman, and just sort of really thinking about it. And I like the fact that he's not like a delusional old man and a sentimental character, that he seems to definitely understand his role in all of this.
Yeah.
I thought he was wonderful.
All right, Alex, Richard Jenkins.
10.
10.
10. Yes. Wow. Yes, a different kind of 10, but I mean, it was such a revelation, that performance. And again, if I were pursuing the craft of acting and, going after those great character parts, that to me would be like, this is what you have to bring your A game. This is where you've got to take your game to. And this is not easy. I mean, this is a veteran actor, but you want to talk about somebody that's really present and really committed to the role, and they can take such outlandish lines and absurd lines and really make them believable. But it just fit his character. Even that wonderful scene when he goes to visit his wife at the cemetery, there's really something touching about that character.
He makes it seem like he actually lost something. And I really like that about that scene.
Even the sense when he knows that Kurt Russell has finished the job, but that I'll never see him again.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the fact that it's like you don't get, the sentimental weeping and whatnot. It's like when you lose your captain, what do? You say, what have we been training for? Now it's our opportunity. We don't know, but it's like, I've got to get these people back.
Yeah.
That's what was so wonderful about that movie. There really was a nice, logical through line.
Matthew Fox, give us a rating, Roseanne. 4 unicorns.
4 unicorns. He's awesome. Like
Yes.
He was.
You didn't believe me. You didn't believe me. I told her.
I believe you. It's not that I doubted you, but I just doubted Matthew Fox entirely. Matthew, Party of 5, lost Fox. And I just thought there's no way. And then he's this super creepy dead-eyed killer.
Sadly, he died too fast. That's if I have a quibble, and that's just as an emotional quibble, not a structural, logical quibble. I just felt
when he died.
Thought he died too fast.
I liked. Actually, I thought that was a perfectly fine death for him.
Well, I think it was inevitable that he would die. I mean, he just
sure.
Everything about him. This guy has the earmarks of nihilism, But I think it's just briefly mentioned about ask my wife and children or something about why.
Mom and sisters.
Mom and sister, and that's it. That's all we need to know. Yeah. But I love that scene when he says something about how many Indians he's killed. And Zahn McClarnon, what does he have that line about? Is that boasting? No, it's just a fact. Or something like that. And it's a great line. And yes, that was a revelation. Because to me, Matthew Fox, Pretty Boy, Party of 5, never watched Lost. It's like I'd rather watch Gilligan's Island. I don't know why. Because it's more up my alley.
Well, Bob Denver, forget about it.
Bob Denver in Bone Tomahawk. Boy, there's a concept.
A troglodyte.
I'd buy that.
No, I'm losing it. Yeah. I'd buy that. I'm going to give Matthew Fox a 10. There's something about what maybe Zahler brought his A game that day. Working with his
his casting director sure did if he wasn't responsible.
Yeah, because can you say if there's one bad performance in Bone Tomahawk?
Well, we're getting to her right now. Not that it's bad.
Oh, okay.
It's not bad.
It's a tough role.
It's Lili Simmons. That's her name. Lili Simmons. I personally just didn't too glamorous for an old Western cuss doctor on the range. And I would have preferred if he got Jennifer, what's her face? She was originally cast, Carpenter. Yeah, so she was originally cast, and for whatever reason, she dropped out.
She might have been. She was on that show. What was it, Dexter?
Yeah.
Could have been. Yeah.
But I don't know for whatever reason she didn't. She's his muse for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. But I think she would have been a much better choice. She I'm sure could have played a wiry, tough doctor on the range. And so the Lili Simmons, fine, but not. I definitely would go bring her down to a 6, just because her blonde hair looked too good. It's like, look at any photo, like any like daguerreotype from that era. These women look stern. Even when they were pretty, they were stern with high cheekbones and squinty eyes and anger in their face. It's like they don't look pretty and glamorous. So that's the only thing. It's like it bugged me. It just bugged me that she was so soft.
Well, it's
looking.
too bad. You'd think that he would do that. I mean, looking at pictures of Belle Starr or Annie Oakley or Calamity Jane, like you say, they just, those are formidable women. I wouldn't go toe to toe with them.
Yeah.
They just
again, if
had
you're gonna exist in the Old West, you're gonna have I'll never forget our neighbor
flint, as they say, or some
our
grit,
woman,
some sand.
Our female neighbor, mother of sort of this. I don't want to disparage them. I doubt they're listening, but we had neighbors across the street, and they were hard, mean people in Vale. And I'll never forget watching the mother with the rims in the tires, or hucking tires from a pickup truck across the lawn over the fence into her front yard, and she was hucking them far. And I'm like, and again, I was 11, 12 years old. I had just experienced changing a tire with my dad and just how heavy they were. And these are 70s and 80s cars. These aren't like
real cars.
Honda Civics, right? These are big tires, and she's just hucking
wheels made of concrete.
And she was one of those leathery women with just skinny. She'd have given the cop the what for sure in a chase.
Well, now we're talking Vale, Oregon, right?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
but we're
okay,
talking.
yeah.
I'm like
frontier
the
folk.
The frontier women, and I was looking at her. I was looking at the progeny of the women who settled on that land, right? And I'm just like, yeah, they're just tough. They're leathery and tough, and that's what. Okay, yes, you give a nod to glamour and beauty just because obviously there were pretty women. There must have been some pretty women in those days, but even the men all look stern and muddy faced. I mean, it just was a time. From every photo I've seen, it just looks like, man, these are some stern, hard people. So that's
and and to her, in her defense, she's trying, but I just don't buy the fact that she frequents jails and things like this. It's
too glamorous.
It's not her.
Too glamorous.
Yeah.
That's it. She's
again,
not playing Lily Langtry. She's playing a country wife.
Yeah.
How do you rate her, Roseanne Caputi?
2 unicorns.
Ooh.
Again, I don't dislike her. I just, I don't think it works. I don't love the part, and it's not like offensive or egregious. It's just not a lot happening, and she doesn't elevate it.
Well, she's not given any. Look,
that's what I'm
all
saying.
I can say is thank God she didn't get her limbs chopped off so she could be a birthing vessel for the troglodytes. Sometimes you do need a damsel in distress, and she's fine.
Again,
I just didn't buy.
I'm fine with damsels in distress. I just didn't. The truth is, the only reason I cared about her was because Patrick Wilson did a very convincing job of seeming like he actually cared about her.
Yeah.
And that it was the impetus for no matter what he was going to go.
Yeah.
But again,
her part was what it was. I'm not gonna. His misstep was not begging Jennifer Carpenter to stay.
Yeah, I think she would have been perfect.
All right, Alex, rate her.
I'm gonna give her a 6.5.
Oh.
And again, I agree it's not her, but she has that key line that's funny when they're in the cave.
Yeah.
And they're explaining what happened, and she goes, "That's the problem with the frontier." It's not the Indians, it's the idiots.
Yeah.
That's a great line, and I think it redeems her.
Great line coming from Jennifer Carpenter.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I think it redeems her character, and it's just the fact that you drag my husband out here, and they're trying, he wanted to come.
Yeah, no.
I mean, just, and that could have gone comical, but it
They had a
didn't.
great response where they're just kind of like,
no recourse. She's right. We can be idiots.
Yeah.
We can be idiots.
Kurt Russell has a great face being operated during that scene.
Yes, he does. Even with that beard, it still shines through.
Yeah.
Nah.
All right, moving
I
on
knew
to
when I
Cell
saw-
Block 90, Brawl and Cell Block 99. Roseanne Caputi,
yes.
rate Vince Vaughn.
Oh man, he's yeah, he's off the chart. I just loved watching him. Even with his like, fading in and out Southern accent or whatever. I just thought, what a cool physical performance. He looks tough as shit. He also looks like he could do any of those jobs he said he did,
Yeah.
which I liked. And I think that's very rare. Just like you do look like you would drive a tow truck. You also look like you would be a drug mule. I'm fine with all of this.
Yeah, exactly. And he looks like a former boxer.
You got it.
He has
And I'm
the
like,
sort of
that
is-
not quite super buff, doesn't look like a superhero,
Right.
but he looks big
Right.
and strong. And he looks
Yeah.
like when he lands those punches, they look like they hurt.
They look like they hurt.
And
'cause
my
they're coming from a good dude.
burning image of him in that film is him in that Cell Block 99 swinging those fists. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, that was a good movie because I remember just the image. Like, to me, a good movie is if the imagery stays with me. If I'm thinking about images in my head. And that image of him just taking those swings, those over-the-top hits to the skull.
Yeah.
And it just that viscerally, that was a really good movie.
Well, and the other thing, I always love
Brutal.
Bruce Lee movies because they always like try to wait a long time before they have Bruce Lee fight. Like he's recently made a vow that he won't fight.
Right.
And I like
Until his
that.
amulet is broken or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the moment we're waiting for. Yes.
But they're right. This movie has that quality and so finally when he does unleash and just become like Vince Vaughn animal, I'm just like, this is satisfying because he also has that psycho face where you're like, this guy could do all kinds of weird shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
So
good
I just
point.
thought, what a great performance.
Alex Robertson, gonna rate it.
I'm gonna give him a 10.
Ooh,
and this
10, all
this
the way
has
to
got
the
to be
top.
my. And again, I don't think I've ever considered myself a huge Vince Vaughn fan, and of course I always have the taint of Four Christmases in the back of my mind because every
Come
Christmas
on,
my wife and
I saw that movie. I don't even think about it. That's
do.
pretty harsh.
I do.
That is a
I'm good. You know what?
He's done a
you
lot
can be
of
harsh.
rom-coms.
You can be harsh about what
But-
you want to be harsh about.
I
This
know,
is
but
my
come
moment.
on. He's
So you
always
just
fine
sit
in a
down,
rom- in a
nerd, and let
rom-com.
me talk.
But he's
let
in
me
a
talk,
rom-com.
or I don't
Rom-coms,
care.
Rom-coms.
Or I'm gonna go brawl on 9 cell block on you,
Nerd
boy.
block. Nerd block 72.
That'll be a short movie. Here's my lunch money. Here's my juice money. Leave me alone.
Take it.
I'll do your
beast.
homework.
You big beast.
You beast. You big, you brute. No, but this was. I can't think of anybody else who could fit this role. And what you said earlier, he looks the part, and I love the fact any other actor would use that as an excuse to go, to their trainers, spend 6 months in the gym, get so ripped, and almost to the point of it just being unrealistic.
Yeah.
And, when you watch some of the great boxers, they weren't trim in that way. I mean, not everyone's a Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
But
Well, you
But he looked
mentioned George
powerful without
Foreman.
being ripped.
George
George
Foreman?
And now he was
Larry
he was
Holmes. Larry
skinnier than
Holmes
George
had
Foreman,
the-
but he had that sort of unchiseled look of a guy who can
that
fight.
chisel look.
Yeah.
And those are the guys that are scary because those are the guys that we have seen in real life that are like, oh, damn, they know how to fight.
Yeah.
You get somebody that has that strain of viciousness and strength.
Right.
Doesn't matter the size. But, I mean, he was the right size. And his fights were great because they were so utilitarian, if that makes sense. They weren't a Bruce Lee. I mean, with Bruce Lee, you had the ballet, you had the athleticism, which was fun to watch. But this is like, no, this is boxing. This is
Plus,
this is
as Roseanne and we point out, no music. So that no music, there was
you
no.
go.
It just seemed very matter of fact. And
Yeah, so it's
that
even
added
more
to his
like you're
toughness.
really watching an ass beating.
Yeah,
which
that
is
added to the toughness for sure.
Yeah,
like
for
when he
sure.
makes the commitment, like, okay, here we go. This is,
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I'm designed for.
And
Yeah.
definitely
just
a
how he
strength in Craig
dispatches.
Zahler. Craig Zahler is just to film an action. Like when he first beats up that poor black guy. The old,
Oh, yeah.
not the old, well,
The
the old
guard.
black guy. The old black
The
guy.
guard.
The old black guy gives him
guard.
the nod of or the shake of the head. That was a good. It's a really good scene
Yeah.
and not That's the problem, because then the dragged into concrete where it gets like really pandering, but that was a good scene where like, yeah, okay, I thought, I thought better of you. It was a really good moment without any speech, without any stupidity. So anyway,
and that's actually, it's weird. That their conversation is nice, and you do feel a little bit of a loss. Like,
Yeah.
he could have been okay at this place, this,
Right.
medium security facility. So there's
Right.
a loss there.
Yeah, no, and it was a nice wordless scene that punctuated what he was gonna do with himself, and I thought unfortunately that skill went out the window. All right, Jennifer Carpenter as the forlorn damsel in distress.
Who are you asking?
You go, Roseanne. Greater performance.
Again, I feel like it's not fair. I like her, and I think she looked exactly like the kind of girl who would be all those things. So ex-junkie, girl who would cheat on him. And I actually really liked their conversation after he busts up the car. Whatever. I didn't feel like her role was very fleshed out. I feel like all of a sudden she's entirely reformed. We don't see any of her journey at all. So you're asking about performance. I know that, but it's difficult to rate only because it's a really limited role. I like her. I don't feel like she gets to do much.
Rate it.
So a unicorn and a half.
Whoa, that's low, but
Yeah,
not so low.
low.
Alex, what do you say?
I'm going to give it a 6.5. And I have to agree, because we don't get to see her journey. We see the confession, that great scene with when he finds out she's cheating and he beats up the car. One of the best, if there are any of the beat up a car scene in Hollywood, I don't think they top this one.
There's
And
only
again,
Mickey Rourke beating up a refrigerator, as far as I know.
there you go. But this one is just so inelegant and it's just so effective. It's just, But then, we see that shift in time when everything's going great. She's in love with him. She's pregnant. What happened in between? I mean, obviously, yeah, it's great that they're back together again. They're in love. But how long will this last? And then when you put her in that perilous situation, which is really horrific, where she's being held and Udo Kier is talking about this man, he's very good at what he does. I mean, it is frightening, but they never went far enough with it. So that when she shoots and kills, it just didn't seem, and again, there you go. You want to talk about wasn't satisfying. It was like, there could have been more. I mean, it would have been nice, and it doesn't have to be a prolonged scene, but just really show her in that perilous situation.
And again, I'm just really fast. I'm so sorry, but I'm just like, okay, I think we all happen to come from the land of Latinas and mean, skinny, junky white girls. I'm like, and she doesn't talk any shit. She's never talking shit or fighting back. That makes no sense. Only after Latina women do skinny, junky white girls talk crazy amounts of shit.
Talk crazy. And it would have been believable in the beginning, like she's trying to go to this higher station in life or whatever. But when she's finally rescued or whatever, that's when we can see that, the junkie girl come out. Why you effing blah, blah, blah.
Or even when she's in that chair, I'm just like, yes, she would cry.
Screaming obscenity.
But I think she would be.
But still, there'd be that
chances are she's been in shitty situations before. So I just imagine there would be more to her.
Yeah.
Well, and to me, in that kind of situation, it's her whole thing just seemed too much of a fantasy. It's just the whole thing, like either kill her or don't, because that's the cartel.
Sure.
It's just like that. It's just it's like Breaking Bad. It's like this wouldn't happen. I don't like that aspect of the movie. I mean, the plot is what it is. It's a B movie plot, and it's a exploitation movie plot. So I can't complain too much, but I don't find any sort of like, oh, that story was so good. It's only the fighting that makes that movie good.
For sure, and I actually assumed they were just
I assumed
they were gonna kill her.
Yeah.
I thought that was what the movie was about. Then it was just his rage
Right.
on Cell Block 99.
Right.
I did not think he was going to still be alive.
Right. Plus with Gil or whatever his name was, and
Yeah, right.
you know, like, come on, he got them in the situation. This is just movie. That's where the cracks definitely were showing in that in that plot. All right, the only other person in that movie worth talking about is the Big D, Don Johnson. Go, Roseanne.
4 Unicorns. He's great.
Alex
Not
Robertson.
spazzy.
Oh,
Good.
I'm going to give him a solid 9.
yeah.
He smokes a good cigar.
Yeah, he did great.
I appreciate that in a good movie, you know. But
Yeah.
where it looks like, I see that guy doing it every day.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
and he's not. And the funny thing is when you think about other prison movies, you know, the brutal warder.
Warden.
You know,
Yeah,
a warden or warder. You think of like. What was it?
I was thinking of Lock Up with Donald Sutherland.
Yes, that's what. Thank you.
And Donald Sutherland turned in. That was a bad Donald Sutherland performance.
That's what I'm. And that's yes. You know, the googly eyes and
he was awful.
No,
awful.
No,
I think he was having fun with it, but he just did a bad job of it.
Again, it's that matter of factness. It's like I always think about when you talked about anytime you see. Why is it, you know, when we make a movie about World War II and we've got the Nazis, we've got the SS officers, all leering and snickering, and if they had mustaches, they'd be twirling them.
Yeah.
But when we see the actual footage, they look like businessmen.
Yeah.
They look like, you know, we do this every day. Yes, we're sending people off to their death. You know, yes, you over here, you over here. You know, none of the leering and and that's what makes it even more unsettling. And I think that was what was great about Don Johnson's performance.
Yes.
He knows who he is. It's like, you know, this is my domain.
Plus, there was an element of like Blackwater, you know, and they were like these. Is that the name of it? What was it? The sort of like elite troop, and so him being the leader of one, which I liked. That was a good angle to take.
Yeah.
So again, another good detail where he just feels like, okay, he's got his little crew of flat tops and he thinks he's badass, you know?
No, he actually seems like a guy who thought he had power. Like, not that he was trying to have power, but just a man who felt pretty comfortable with it. Which I think is a cool idea.
Yeah, and he did really well with it. So I was impressed to see Don Johnson again. Because after Knives Out, you know, it's like, is he just collecting paychecks and just relying on his name? Because he didn't do anything. He's just in the movie. I mean, there was a lot of people.
First of all, I would not blame him for that.
No, I don't blame him for it. But I thought, is that going to be the rest of his career? Is just showing up with the beard? Yeah, showing up with the beard and like, I'm Don Johnson. Let me just collect my paycheck and get the hell out of here. And again, it was nice to see him do something. So that's all. Because he's brimming with charisma. That guy. All right, finally. Here we go. So, let's talk about Knives Out. Rate Mel Gibson's performance, Roseanne Caputi.
I'd rather rate Mel Gibson's mustache, but like a 1 unicorn. I just don't like him. I don't like his reactions. So that's the deal.
Yeah, Alex Robertson.
I'll be a little kinder, but I'm going to give him a 5.
Ooh.
God, you know, and Alex, here's why. You are absolutely Paula Abdul on this.
I can be whoever I want to be. I can be whoever I want to be.
I identify as Paula Abdul.
I can be a beautiful little girl. I can be a beautiful little unicorn dancing in the field of snowflakes.
Okay, Vince Vaughn.
With Udo Kier.
Vince Vaughn.
I'm going to be a little bit more fair. I'm going to give him about a 7 in this one. I know you didn't like him. But again, there was something about his performance. I felt bad for the guy. I mean, I felt bad for the character.
Really?
I felt bad. I did.
Really? I just felt bad for Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
But I don't know. See, I'm sorry. But that moment right before he dies, when he finally hears the message from his would-be fiance, it was, well, there's something I could have not heard or whatever. You know, what a way to have to die. I mean, at least if he could have.
Yeah, that adds to the pointlessness of it all.
Well, it was pointless. Yeah. Well, there was that sense of nihilism.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed his eating during the stakeout scenes. I don't know why. There was just something when he's sitting there crunching on whatever he's eating and putting salt.
You told me about that scene before we saw, but Mel Gibson blew that scene.
Well, fine.
He blew it with his overacting.
But Vince Vaughn stuck with it.
Yeah.
I mean, he did. I could taste every bite. Okay? I could taste every bite. No, it's not on a par with Brawl in Cell Block 99 by any stretch of the imagination. But again, I don't have a lot of Vince Vaughn performances to really compare it to.
4 Christmases.
That's it. Well, and I remember seeing Lost World, but vaguely. I mean, I just vaguely remember like when he's taunting Peter Postlethwaite about, so you want to go and shoot these animals? It's just, oh God, what is this? What is he the resident Greenpeace? Do-gooder.
This is Spielberg doing what he does. Oh, get that hot young kid.
Get that hot young kid.
So like what?
Peter Billingsley's best friend.
Let's go Tory Kettles. Anyway. How do you rate his performance?
Who's up?
Alex, you're up.
I'm up. I'm going to give him a 7.
7.
I'm going to give him a 7. I'm going to give him a 7 because given what he had, and I will say this, that preposterous ending, it's like, really? That big lavish mansion by whatever, what was that, Lake Geneva?
He bought it with gold. Gold bars he bought.
Nobody's going to notice that?
Yeah,
why couldn't they just be in, like a gated community in a nice big house? Not that, that makes sense, better.
The whole thing's
better,
so stupid.
Yes,
it's so stupid.
Okay.
He bought a house,
but
that
gold. Was a preposterous. I always think about. All I could think about was Crispin Glover in that scene. I think the issues that he had when he was doing Back to the Future, and he said, wasn't there that disagreement when he said, why does he have to be rich?
Yeah.
Why can't they be happy because they're happy? Because he found his confidence. He found his mojo, and they've been in love ever since. Yeah. I mean, it's not like they could be a little bit better off financially, but and I could see what he's going with. And this is like, well, this is taking that whole thing to the extreme. Like, wow, I mean, the house that gold bought. And it is. It's
this weird sort of idea that once you get a better house, you somehow are a better person, regardless of.
Mom's a better person with her daily massages. Her daily.
It bothered me in Cell Block 99 too. They have a better house. I'm like, oh, so all of a sudden they have taste. They're no longer trashy. Like that didn't work for me. I was like,
I found the whole thing stupid that because he's a drug smuggler, now things are good. Like what?
Yeah. No, it's a very
the funny thing is, if you're going to do it right, you can still have those houses, but you still bring that element of trashiness with you.
Yeah.
You watch. Look, one of my favorite shows for years and years is watching Cops.
Mama's Family.
Oh yes, that too. You got a problem with Vicki Lawrence? Huh? You punk.
I don't.
No,
for the record.
But Vicki Lawrence. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't. I love her.
Oh, okay. No, I'm not going to argue.
She and Carol Burnett. Forget it. Anyway.
I love the old show. Carol Burnett show.
I get it.
No, but I always think about like on Cops whenever they go into the burbs and they make those busts and those houses, and they're all like the nice houses, the 3,500 square foot 2-story house. But once they get inside, I mean, it's like a dozen people sacked out. I mean, it is just they just can't leave that. They can't leave that life. It's almost as if everywhere you go. This is why you people can't have nice things.
Yeah.
Even if you're in this nice house, there's some, motorcycle parts on the coffee table or, what, where are his pet iguanas? Or they always dig into reptiles. I just don't see the point.
But see, that has a very single guy, like idealism.
on life.
Like, oh yeah, once I have money, everything's gonna be perfectly sterile and clean. Like, well,
Right.
no.
And the women throw themselves at my feet.
No, he definitely has that idea about women and motherhood as well. I'm just like, I think he definitely just doesn't seem to know any. So
Michael Jai White, who's I was very
Usually.
sad to see him in such a thankless role, because he was Spawn, and he was the lead bad guy, and not the lead bad guy, but he was the leader of the gang, so the Black Gang in The Dark Knight, and he was good. So to have him sort of relegated to poor sap who gets his guts, he gets gutted, and I just thought, anyway, it was sad that he played such a, like, I don't know, like, I can't say it any other way, thankless part. I wish he was
he's
getting
a
more
cool
parts.
actor that deserves better.
Yeah.
And his friend didn't even mourn his death.
No.
Like, he seemed wildly unaffected by
Plus
it.
plus the way
at that point, I was like, this is weak.
Huge missed opportunity with the way he was gutted. Why even cast him though? Why cast someone?
I don't know.
He has some name recognition. He has
why
a
don't you put him
formidable presence.
in put him in the other role?
Yeah.
Put him in the.
Yeah.
Not that Tory Kettles wasn't. But it's like, but you're getting Michael Jai White. It's just like.
Yeah. No, I thought
it's like
I was sad for him. All right, is there anybody else to comment on? No, that poor woman playing the bank teller. Oh my God.
That made me again. That's what.
Wait,
made
we
me
should
hate
talk
movies.
about it, because that was
That
was the rantings of a lunatic. That whole
complete
bit.
lunatic. But let me just say, his whole thing about her husband or boyfriend, whatever, locking her out of the apartment and forcing her to go to work because she makes more money than him and not letting them see their child was completely psycho. So we're already starting on this road of, don't worry, no woman in this film will have any agency. And then we continue on that path of just utter and complete needless humiliation.
But it's amazing how your Jennifer Carpenters who might have the hotline to his soul by being his muse. Why couldn't she say, "This is crap. What are you doing?" Or she just need the job so badly? Like,
maybe
I would go,
again.
This is crap. Have you ever listened to married couples? They wouldn't do this. She would just leave them in an instant.
Wouldn't do that.
She would leave them in an instant.
Right. Again, she'd be like, "That's right. You don't make any money. Fuck you."
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That would be it.
No,
Go back to your
that
Sega
reeked of
Dreamcast,
M. Night
loser.
Shyamalan's Signs scenes.
Yeah.
Just felt straight out of Signs. Like, who talks like this? Who acts like this?
Right. No, right. And just no one. And again, she would have been purely understanding. All he had to do was show her sort of tearfully kiss them goodbye and get on the bus.
Yeah.
If he wanted to make that point.
Yes.
It's all he had to do.
Would have been
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad stuff. All right,
Yep.
so we've definitely gone way over time. I never thought we'd talk about these three movies this long, but maybe
Well, we did.
that's the virtue of
really did.
that's the problem with talking about three movies.
right.
Great
You.
talk. Great talk. Okay, talk to you later.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Fabulous Film and Friends. Copyright 2024, a Bel Air Films production.